Hello and welcome back to the Weird and Proud Podcast.
Wait, I fucked up. Wait,
I didn't know what was going on.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Welcome back.
and-
Oh shit! Fuck. Okay, ready?
You're not editing this out. This needs to stay in.
1, 2, 3.
Hello and welcome back to the Weird and Proud Podcast.
It's Sam and
You're not editing that out.
never say your name. James. Okay, I finally got the harmony. I was going too crazy. I was going too crazy the first time I tried the harmony, and then I felt good about that last time. Wasn't that kind of fun and cute?
I felt good about it.
Okay, good. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. A true weird and proud greeting on this glorious morning. Makes me sick. What movie is that from? Name it.
It's the nighttime.
I know, but it's Hocus Pocus. Hello, James. It's Hocus Pocus.
Oh.
Get it together. Spooky season. We're feeling spooky. This spooky series that we've been doing. I mean, it's weird and proud. So it's like we always find some spooky stuff even during the main year. But this little spooky series we've been doing has been really fun.
Spooky season, fall's awesome. Spooky season is an amazing kickoff to fall.
It really is an amazing kickoff. And we only have 2 weeks left. So today and this episode and next week's episode.
I kind of felt like today we're recording on the 20th. This is kind of the this is your run. If you don't have your Halloween costumes figured out yet,
you got to figure it out.
You got to get your shit together.
Yeah, and a lot of you were right. A lot of people guessed what our costume was.
They did?
Yeah. I don't know why I thought so many people wouldn't. If you missed, I kind of gave a tip on what our Halloween costume was. I guess I did give it away a little bit, but you guys won't tell anyone. Like, you guys got to still act surprised when you see it. And we have a little twist to it,
I'm way more excited about the twist than I am the actual costumes.
Yeah. And the dogs are in it. The animals are in it. So just wait. We have some Halloween competitions. Well, not competitions, but some Halloween events next weekend. So you'll be seeing them shortly. And you can be like, wow, that's crazy. I never saw that coming. It's so wild. It's so new and crazy. But I did see a lot of chimp crazy.
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of chimp crazy.
Like that would always be, because I already have like the costumes and everything. Like that could always be like an easy one if we needed to mix it up one night. If we get invited to all these like even more crazy parties.
You're going to make me dress up like a chimp, aren't you?
Yeah, but you already have a chimp costume. You've already done it.
I do like the chimp costume.
Yeah, you're very gorilla-like. You're very chimp-like.
I take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
They're incredibly strong.
Incredibly strong. It's incredibly smart.
Will you feed me McDonald's?
Yes. You don't even like McDonald's. Anyways, this has just gone off the rails as it normally does, but we're just getting back. We had an event this weekend supporting one of our favorite and the best.
Still wearing the t-shirt.
Even though they're all the best, all rescues. It's like I can't discriminate on rescues, but one of our favorite rescues in Stamford, Connecticut, where we live, had a fundraising event this weekend that we hosted, and it was just like, that's the kind of events that I love to go to. Fall events. It was outdoors. We had the most beautiful weather. We hosted Jeopardy. We had like a little Jeopardy game. There's some bands, and there were a bunch of like little competitions, like best kissing competition for the dogs and costume competitions. So it was just so fun. Just people who love dogs, people who love animals. Gurgina Day. Jane. And I'm finally over my sickness. I know everyone was so worried, but I'm finally feeling better.
You were sick?
Shut up. I thought the ghosts from Arkansas had taken over my body, and I was going to be the next poltergeist.
Which is much more plausible.
Can you imagine the next, there's all those exorcism like movies. The Exorcism of the Gape.
I called some priests.
The Exorcism of the Gape.
We were gonna exercise.
Get Wes Craven on this one. Where's A24 at?
Yeah, their headquarters is in Manhattan.
I should be in scary movies. By the way, the fact that no one's hired me to be in a scary movie is kind of
that's not right.
That's kind of hurtful.
Yeah,
like you don't even need special effects. Like you could cut costs by hiring me. If anyone knows any like spooky movie people, like give them my number.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners have a direct line to like Wes Craven.
To like the guy who did Terrifier. maybe one day a girl can dream, you know? But we do have an amazing show for you. Let's get into the real thick of it. And because we're on this spooky adventure, we've obviously talked a lot about ghosts. We've talked a lot about some other supernatural things. But the one thing that I can't believe we haven't talked about yet is vampires. And like probably all of my millennial sisters, my millennial girlies, or even, I mean, I feel like it's spread to now Gen Z. I mean, all the generations can agree that we all like had an obsession, had a phase where we were obsessed with vampires. And like,
Agreed.
honestly, truly thought, like, maybe now, like, I think I'm at the point where I can honestly say, I don't know if vampires are real.
What?
I know.
Why?
I won't even argue with it.
Why do you say that?
Well, we're going to get into it.
Okay.
It's a little, it's a little much, but I want to believe. Like, I think there was a point where, like, I wanted to believe so bad that then I did believe because I just, like, wanted, honestly, a vampire boyfriend.
You've often talked about having a ghost and or vampire boyfriend.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm, like, obsessed with, like, can you die
which
or
is
something?
why I'm waiting for you to murder me.
Could you, like, die and raise from the dead, do you think?
Just to spite
You
you,
know-
I would not haunt you.
That's honestly so rude.
Yeah. If you killed me, I would not haunt you.
What?
You need to let me die naturally. I'm sorry.
What?
Yeah. That's how I'm going to stay alive. That's my security.
But what if you can't help it? You just like you're so mad. Like
I think you get to
your
choose
soul.
who you're haunting.
I don't know. I don't think you do. I think it chooses you. And I think you'd be so mad at me that you would haunt me anyways. But yeah, no, I really, really was obsessed with vampires. But I feel like again, a lot of us girlies were probably
Well, you loved the True Blood, and you loved
True Blood. By the way, shout out if there are any other True Blood super fans out there.
I've seen all the True. I like True Blood.
True Blood. We should rewatch that.
I would
actually.
rewatch True Blood. We have
I bought all
HBO.
the DVDs.
Yeah, we have.
I mean,
HBO.
not that we even. I don't even know if we have a DVD player anymore. But I was obsessed with True Blood. Watched every episode live. Like I would like cancel all plans. Like anything schoolwork, I would literally.
You wouldn't even record it. You'd watch it.
Yeah,
when
live.
it aired.
Yes, I had to.
Wasn't it Sunday nights?
It was Sunday nights.
Yep, I remember.
Yep, I literally would beg my parents to get the HBO package so that I could watch it because they like refused. They thought it was like a wait, whatever. True Blood I was obsessed with, of course. Vampire Diaries too.
I've never seen any of them.
Oh my god, it's so corny and cheesy, but it was so good.
Wait, Twilight. That's the other one you love.
And
right?
that's the other. Well, Twilight, and that was like I feel like that was like kind of the most recent one, and then that really reinvigorated
I've never
a
seen
love
any of the
for
Twilight
vampires.
Movies.
You've never what?
Never seen the Twilight movies.
What?
You've never seen Star Wars, which is worse.
Okay, well, let's go Star Wars. Stupid.
There's plenty of other great vampire movies out there that I do not need to degrade other vampire movies by putting my energy towards the Twilight movies.
Well, okay, first of all, we're going to get into that. We're going to have to watch. You're going to have to watch the Twilight with me. It's literally, I can't believe you've never seen the Twilight movies. How have we never talked about this?
I've told you this before.
Really?
Yeah. Long time ago. But
yeah, I think it was a long time ago. I think I'm re-shocked. And
you were that shocked the first time.
I had to have been because I know I would
Did you
always
block
have
it
that.
out? You were like,
I blacked it out. Yeah,
he must be lying to me.
Yeah, I would have had to break
There's
up with
no
you.
way this could be true.
We're definitely gonna watch that, but also just like, I mean, throughout history, like it has been, vampires have always been a huge part of mythology and folklore all around the world, really. And I mean, I'm talking about most recently 21st century stuff. I mean, too, this one also, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Classic. Interview with a Vampire. That was another, like, that came out when I was really young.
Interview with Vampire. I like that movie.
Yeah, that was really.
That movie was chocked full of great actors.
Totally.
Christian Slater.
Totally. That helps.
Tom Cruise. Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Some of the best.
She was very
Kristen
young.
Durst.
Kristen Durst. Yeah, she was like
Durst.
Dunst. I think it is Dunst. Yeah.
But so many good vampire movies. But really, like, just in my research, of course, I've been doing some research on vampire history, and back to 1300 in the Roman Empire, in Chinese mythology, like you can find vampire lore in part of like every culture in their history somewhere. And a lot of the current lore that we know now has been inspired, like a lot of like, we call it the European vampire. Because a lot, there's always been like some sort of creatures or beasts throughout folklore that have, been like some sort of zombie that rises from the dead and like attacks people and sucks their blood, and becomes these sort of like demons. It's rooted in a lot of course Christianity and a lot of religious backgrounds as well, where it's this demon that attacks you, takes all your energy, sucks your soul, sucks the life out of your soul, and eats you or whatever, sucks your blood. So the one that really kind of kicked it off for the European model of the vampire, if you will. And I have some personal experience with this, which the OG followers will remember this, but Bram Stoker's
I'll challenge that.
Dracula. Okay, what do you guys say?
I think that it was, what's his name? There was a conversation that Lord Byron in England had with Mary. It was a challenge he put out to Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein from the challenge, and John Polidor.
You know what? You're right. Well,
he wrote Vampire, Vampyre.
Yeah.
And that was actually the short story that launched.
So you were right.
That.
I was going to say there was like a, I was going to put an asterisk to that there was a book of folklore published in 1885, and it was a lot of local myth and folklore from Romania.
This is from like Slavic 18. Countries. This happened in like 1820. This conversation with Lord Byron,
and I'm sure because again, like vampires really have been the idea of a vampire. Yeah. They've been different words for them, have been around again since like 1400, maybe even earlier.
That conversation in the writing world is very famous because Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and vampire lore, and Lord Byron was already one of the most. He's a lord. He was like one of the most esteemed English poets at the time.
Yep,
and still is. They were all like the original storytellers, right?
Yeah.
And they were all great. And both those stories came from that.
Yep,
like conversation at their villa or something like that.
Yeah. And then really what set off Dracula, I will say, because like vampires, I guess you could say, we're talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula is what really set off this idea of this Dracula figure. You're right. And for those who don't know, I did go to Romania. I went to Transylvania about a year and a half ago. Actually, it's probably 2 years ago, which is crazy. Just some little Sam folklore, some Sam lore. I've shared on social media, I've shared with you guys that I did Italy's Got Talent. Well, I also did Romania's Got Talent. Don't ask me why.
True.
Don't ask me how. Basically, they reached out and they were like, the talent, we need a little bit, some crazy stuff on the show. We don't have any large gaped women in Romania. Will you come on Romania's Got Talent and showcase your gape skills? And I said, hell yeah, because obviously when else would I ever go to Romania? And I've always been obsessed with vampires. The first thing you think of is Romania. You think Transylvania, you think vampires. So I got to go over there. I went to Bucharest, which is the capital of Romania. And then I took a bus to Transylvania, which is a real, like, kind of like a county in Romania. And this is where, kind of where we take a little bit of history and fiction kind of merge a little bit, because is it Bram Stoker or Bram? Why do I keep wanting to say Bram?
I think it's pronounced Bram Stoker.
Bram. Okay, that's probably I'm pronouncing
Bram Stokers. Yeah.
Bram Stoker. So this was again late 1800s. He wrote Dracula, which it was based on the story of this Impaler, Vlad the Impaler. And this was again back when in like the Roman Empire, again, probably around like the 1400s, mid to late 1400s.
I think it was 14th century, so 1300s.
1300s, maybe. Okay. This was, constant battles, whatever they were doing back then. They're always fighting back then, killing each other. And there was this man. Oh, if you can hear that, that's my cat taking a shit in a litter box.
That's what she's doing.
That's literally my cat singing shit.
Is the capital of Romania Bucharest?
It is.
Or is it Budapest?
No, Budapest is not in
No,
Romania.
Budapest is different. Okay.
My heart's in Budapest, my last little. They were talking about Romania in that song. So Vlad the Impaler, he had this reputation for being literally like this psychopath. Like this was true from what
Absolutely.
this was true, and this again where we kind of emerging some history to fiction, but Vlad the Impaler was a psychopath. He was known for his cruelty, and he led the Slavic, I think it was Romania at the time. I don't even really know what the geography was back then, but the area of Romania, whatever the hell it was, because also Romania has been taken over by like everyone.
Multiple
Poor
times.
Romania has literally been through it. But he had this reputation of literally impaling his victims with a stake through their heart, through the body.
I think he did it as a display.
Yeah, he would display his
keep
victims.
Other people from attacking, because this is what'll happen to you.
Yep. And there were, kind of rumors, guesses that he killed and impaled over 20,000 people over his time. And there are also these rumors, and this is again where some of this becomes, a little bit of fiction and some of it's folklore. Who knows how much is actually true? But there was stories that he would dip bread in his opponent's blood and eat it. And that's kind of where some of this started, that he, again, was the psychopath that, would go after his opponents.
It wasn't uncommon for warlords to drink the blood
to
of
do
others.
Crazy shit like that.
No, it wasn't like, but a great writer took that and ran with it.
Smart
idea.
Yeah. So, of course, Vlad the Impaler in Bram's book, Dracula, becomes this vampire figure and lives in this castle, which there is this, and I think it's actually what Bram, I remember going in because, of course, I had to go visit Dracula's castle, go in, and there's like a list of all of these people that have lived in this castle. So I believe they think Vlad had maybe lived there at one point, but like it's tough to say. Of course, like this is so, long ago. It's not like they kept records, but there definitely was handed over time of all the people that they believe had lived there at one point. But there, of course, from Bram's story and the story of the vampire is that he becomes this creature that can't be killed. He sucks blood to keep him alive, which sucks the energy and kills people. And that he lives in this castle. That's where he brings his victims. He lures people there, and that's where he tortures and sucks their blood and murders people. Of course, many historians will say that actually Vlad the Impaler wouldn't just like bring random people up to his castle and do that. It was from the rumors of him dripping, or dipping his bread in blood to like prove that he's like this badass psychopath. But also there also was this rumor too, and even when I was at the castle, of course, they were talking a lot about this. They're like, a lot of this is based off a story, and some kind of gossip that ended up becoming the story of Dracula. But they thought at one point that Vlad might have had a condition called hemoleucuria, because of course one of the other things with vampires is they have, those yellow eyes and they're super pale. And this hemoclaria is a super rare condition that causes your eyes to be yellow and your tears contain little bits of blood in them. So when you cry or when you even if you look, you can see it'll be like a yellowish red, bloody, have like little bits of blood, and it will also make you super pale. And he also did just like look like a creep. Like I know a lot of those like pictures are probably, it's like you take a picture of him, but he looks like a creepy person. And it was cool, like in the castle itself, like they did have a lot of his memorabilia, and I mean, as much as they could keep, and they had like his armor that he would wear that was like super creepy. I have, by the way, if you are interested in more of that trip, there's a whole highlight section that I have on Instagram, so you can go and see all my pictures and videos and stuff that I took when I was there if you're really interested. But yeah, so, and there was, there was this other gossip too that he was low on iron. That was what had started this rumor too. That's why he also felt like he had to drink blood, and that's why he would lure victims to suck all their blood, is he had low iron, and that was part of this condition, and that's why he also really, craved the blood. But of course they don't know how much of that actually is true. So what's creepy is that, like, from this book, like, it really did, like, kind of cause this panic. And in Romania, in this area of Transylvania, it was almost kind of like their version of the Salem witch trial, where they would, a lot of people would say that person's a vampire, they're pale. I saw them, coughing blood, or, I saw them in the graveyard at night, or, there would always be these people trying to accuse others of being vampires. And it was something like a lot of the locals were really scared of. And again, I was watching this like history documentary of the History Channel. And a lot of these historians were like trying to figure out, because a lot of this, again, was in the late 1800s. Once some of these, that the short stories come out and then Bram's book comes out, there's a lot of this kind of panic that people are trying to accuse each other of being vampires. And there were stories, and like they could find, of course, it's not like they really had like a full-blown newspaper back then, but they could find archives of that there really would be people that would come in, and people would swear that a figure came in at night, tried to suffocate them, tried to suck their blood. They would wake up with blood all over them. They would wake up pale, and they would say they felt like they were getting the energy sucked out of them. And so a lot of these researchers were like, okay, how can we like debunk this?
Yeah.
Because of course, it's kind of weird. Like, why would there be these short stories? How can we give an explanation? Well, there's a couple different, historians that believe different things, but one thinks that it was actually people with rabies.
Oh.
Because again, back then, there were some of these conditions and diseases that they just didn't really know what they were. They didn't have the medication for it.
Louis Pasteur had not come up with the vaccine for rabies yet.
Nope. And, kind of explain that people attacking them out of nowhere, people trying to bite them, this like rabid behavior. But then another historian thinks, he's like, I actually think it was some people who had tuberculosis. He was like, I think, the whole like, maybe they had blood on them because they were coughing up blood, or maybe they were, and again, that would cause them to be sick, have these hallucinations, pale, whatever. But like it was so bad that like back then, like they would literally bury people and put cages over them so that they couldn't escape. Or there was this one story I was like, what's the most recent? And we're going to get to like some more American recent stories. But in 2004 in Transylvania, a village outside of in Transylvania in Romania, there's a woman whose husband had passed away. And apparently he was violent towards her during their marriage. But even after his death, she would like wake up and have these horrible nightmares that he was attacking her in her sleep, and that she kept having these visions of him eating her. And she would wake up in the morning with no energy. And she was like, I feel like he's coming at night and, sucking my blood and taking, parts of my soul. So literally a bunch of these local villagers went and dug him up. And this was like a common thing. And they put a stake through his heart because they thought he was coming out of the grave.
They did this in 2004.
This was in 2004.
Wow.
And they put a stake through his heart, and because that was, of course, the only way to really kill a vampire, or chop off their head. But most of it was putting stake through the heart. And she says then after then it stopped. She stopped having the nightmares, of course. Which brings us to today. Of course, now, vampires are like, I mean, it's a modern story, again, we were just talking about all of the new content that continues to come out, even though there hasn't really been like a good vampire, other than like, of course, the Twilight. That's like the most recent. But like ever since then, there was really a phase. I feel like it was when I was in college in like 2008 to like 2000, and that was when all the Twilight was coming out. Vampire Diaries, that was like, I feel like for my age and like my my generation, that was like our obsession with vampires. And it's funny that even to this day, if you're on the TikTok, if you're chronically online like I am, there are a lot of stories about New Orleans vampires.
Oh yeah.
And if you ever like go to look up, okay, like are vampires real? Is there proof of them existing today? You will find a lot of people talk about the vampires of New Orleans.
That tour we took, yeah.
And James and I, of course, have also been to New Orleans. And that was, we went on this tour that had talked a lot about them. And the one thing that's hard is this group, which they kind of, some people call them a cult, are very private. So like people, they will not talk to, outsiders. Like it very much kind of feels like this cult of people. And they seriously, there are these people who seriously will drink blood. They get donors, like they have people that will donate their body. And I mean, not their body, but like they will go over, they will literally, I was like watching this video of this guy who swears he's a real vampire. His name's Balthazar. He lives in New Orleans, and he's like one of the only ones who's ever done an interview outside of their group. And he has donors, like they have people that are also like, have a little bit of a kink for this. And they will come over, they'll literally like they'll do an alcohol swab normally on their back shoulder.
Very sanitary.
Very sanitary. And they have like a little X-Acto knife, and they'll make like 3 or 4 dots, like kind of in a circle, little pricks. And they'll just like suck on their shoulder.
I've seen. I think we watched something.
Yeah, we'd watched something, and again, we had done a little bit of digging. We're in New Orleans, but we didn't really. I mean,
the New Orleans story was fascinating. If you're not going to talk about
tell it. You tell
I don't
the
remember the guy's name.
I
wish I would have looked it
either.
up. So what I'm doing is recommending to the weirdlings, look up, if you haven't looked up and you need something spooky to read about, look up, or there are some good, like, there's some good not documentaries, but like on the Discovery Channel, there's some shows that cover this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Look up, watch it, find a little clip on the New Orleans vampire stories. Because
they are like people who really think it's like people who really believe they're vampires.
There's a vampire. There was a guy that they claimed is a vampire, right?
Yes,
and he's very wealthy, and he threw parties, and they found bottles of wine mixed with blood.
Yep.
Like, and that part apparently is very true.
Yeah.
Written in police reports.
And again, like,
I just can't remember his name.
Yeah, but even if you look up, those happen to this day.
Yeah.
Like there really are people that get together, drink blood together. Again, they get these donors, and they swear that it gives them energy, that it gives them power, that it gives them nutrients.
Yep.
There's this guy, Balthazar, because a lot of them were like, how did you know? Like, how did you know you're a vampire? Because obviously, like, you grew up as a human, like you were born as a human child. Like, what happened? And this guy, Balthazar, talks about he grew up in a very abusive home.
Yeah.
And he says one day, it was his stepdad who would like be brutal. And, one day he finally found the strength to fight back. But he was like, the only thing I could think to do was to bite him. And to get him to stop, like I bit down as hard as I could and would kind of like, started sucking. And he was like, and it gave me so much power that I finally was able to like put my stepdad in his place, and like he basically like, kicked his stepdad's ass. And he was like, that was the first time like I felt alive. That was the first time like I finally had this energy and this power. And now he's a part of this group, and they meet. They'll have meetings weekly, sometimes again daily, depending on how involved you are as a vampire. But it is like kind of like this cult. They'll throw parties, and it's very secretive. You can only, be invited.
Sure.
Like
extremely,
yeah, because it is like, like a lot of people like it is kind of unsafe. That's why they're like trying to be like, we use alcohol.
They also don't want to be ridiculed, and
right.
There's a lot of other reasons.
Of course, they don't want to be judged, but of course, like a psychologist was like, weighing in on it and was like, a lot of these people. again, it's almost kind of like you gaslight yourself into it. You know, of course, a lot of these people have some have some things that they've gone through.
If you had an abusive situation and then you bit someone and you felt power from it and you associated with that,
Right.
your brain is going to believe that.
Right.
It's
And like the
fine.
more that you do it, like, because then he was, he was showing he was doing these feedings, and he'd be like, look, after, like, my skin looks better, like my eyes are brighter, and it's like they just play into it. They totally make themselves believe that this
Nothing
really
wrong.
is.
There's nothing wrong with a good old placebo effect.
And there's nothing wrong with a placebo a placebo
If we
effect.
could all find our own placebo effect that didn't involve pricking and sucking.
Yeah,
blood.
well, it's like it's kind of like I never want to yuck someone's yum, so to speak, but as long as they're being safe, I guess, and they're not like hurting someone. A lot of these donors, like, it's kind of like, are also a little bit of freaks, but they're like, like they will beg to, like, please, like, suck on me. Like, that would be me, though. Like, if you were like to ask me that in like 2008, you're like, hey,
you would have done that.
yeah,
100%. Yeah.
Like these, quote unquote real vampires, like, are looking for a donor to donate. Be like, hell yeah, I'm looking for my Edward. I was so obsessed. And now I can't even remember too what the guy's name in True Blood was, but that was like my first true.
Wasn't Edward the guy named? No.
I can't remember the guy in True Blood. Edward Cullen was
Edward
in
Cullen,
Twilight. But I can't remember who the guy of the.
Which was the guy? Was it the Nordic one? The tall.
Yes.
All
of them, all of those, the True Blood
Eric
vampires were so hot.
Name.
Eric. Sookie was her name. I loved Sookie. Anyways,
Anna Paquin was the actress.
Anna Paquin.
She's a fantastic actress in general.
I loved her.
Like, she's great.
Yeah, so good. Anyways, kind of crazy. Just like thought we should maybe touch on that. So yeah, I obviously didn't come here today to try and convince you the vampires are real, because unfortunately.
So how do you so strongly believe in ghosts and UFOs, but not vampires?
Because first of all, James, how much time do we have? Okay. Vampires, like, the idea of like a true definition of a vampire is like someone who had died, rose from the dead, and sucks people's blood for power, and that's all that they eat is blood, and they live off blood, and they sleep during the day, and at night they come out and suck people's blood.
There are examples in science of beings that do that. They're called mosquitoes.
Okay, well then a mosquito is a vampire. Okay, that's fine.
This exists in the world.
Okay, then it's a mosquito.
Yet you believe in
mosquitoes.
UFOs and
I
ghosts
believe in
than a vampire.
mosquitoes. But a ghost, like a definition of a ghost, a spirit, would be like, someone who's passed on, who hasn't, isn't able to. And I've had experiences with ghosts. Some would say I've seen some UFOs around here too. I can feel the aliens. Some would say I could feel the aliens vibes. Just saying. But I have not had an experience with a vampire. But I'm just saying, if any of you guys are vampires, more power to you. Let me know. DM me. If you're a vampire or you know a vampire, DM me. If you have any vampire stories, call us in. That I really need to hear. If you have any stories, if you guys have a personal story with a vampire, I need to hear it immediately. And that's what I have to say about that. I'm open, like, with everything. I'm open. If you have a vampire to show me,
say that. Yeah, nope.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm not gonna come on here. I would never lie to you guys. Vampire. I want it to be real, James. You have no idea how bad I want it to be real.
More likely, vampire or Bigfoot?
Bigfoot.
Loch Ness Monster, vampire.
Ooh, Loch Ness Monster.
More likely Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. I have a feeling there's like some big giant furry thing out there wandering around the woods. The woods are freaky. Appalachian, there's some weird shit going on out there. I don't know, man. You know what else I'm more scared of? Is the ocean creatures. You know what I'm scared of? What's ever down there in the ocean in the dark. That scares the shit out of me.
There's some creepy stuff down there.
But there's a vampire down there.
You think
some
that's where
weird
they live?
Creature. I don't know. And I don't want to know, because that place creeps me out. I used to like take gummies and watch underwater creatures for fun. I used to, meaning like I did that last night.
It sounds. I was just gonna
I
say.
just
I'm
did
like,
it an hour.
how recently?
I love underwater creatures. They're so spooky. Anyways, James, any other thoughts on vampires that you would like to comment on?
No, that was.
You thought
I,
it was
I like talking about vampires.
me
Yeah,
too. I like talking about vampires too.
I think that a lot of vampire lore is extremely interesting.
It is. All these different creatures are extremely interesting. That's what, like that reminded me of Frankenstein. Maybe I got to do like a Frankenstein
And I
episode.
kind of want to go back and watch the movie Bram Stoker's Dracula that has Gary Oldman as
That's
Dracula.
old.
Yeah, who cares? It's
Who
good.
cares? Classics. We're in the spooky season.
That's the thing.
Now's the time to watch it. If any
Yeah.
time, now's the time. Well, we have so much content to watch. It's crazy. By the way, speaking of kind of quick before we move on to James Science Corner, what movie was it that we watched? Oh, Women's Hour. The Woman's Hour? What was it?
Woman of the Hour?
Women of the Hour. Thank you. We watched that on Netflix last night. It was about the Love the Dating Game serial killer, starring Anna Kendrick, which you guys know, kind of hurtful, kind of hard for me to watch. She also directed it. Fabulous.
Great, very good movie.
Great movie.
I liked it.
Great movie, spooky, about a serial killer I didn't really know about. I maybe have heard about him, maybe a podcast episode a while ago, but I was like, oh, this is like a new story. It had me Googling, doing some giggles, trying to find out. I was like, wait, what really happened? But really good. Even though, I hate to admit it because Anna Kendrick stole my life. But
You know what? You know what I liked about it once I
tell
was
me, James,
thinking
what
about
did
it
you
today
like about it?
is they didn't give power or by power excuses to the serial killer.
Yeah.
Like they didn't go into the backstory of
His story.
His story.
Yeah.
They didn't give the like if he was abused or not, or if he did this or not, right? Because at the end of it, he chose to do some pretty horrible things for a really long time.
Yeah.
So I like
psycho.
that they didn't give power to that story.
Yeah.
Like,
and
I
it was
think
more
that
about like
that's
the
okay.
women being like,
That's what it should be about.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what
I'm
it
gonna
should be
take
about.
you down. Yeah, it was really good. So just since we're watching so much spooky stuff lately, that was a really good movie on Netflix. But anyways, James, for Science Corner, why are we so obsessed with all this stuff?
We're going to give you a little kudos because you sent this article and you were like,
I did, because I think that's an interesting discussion about this obsession. We were talking about last week how like this growing obsession with all the spooky stuff, how every place we've gone, the Salem, we went to Tarrytown, they're like every year it keeps getting earlier, we keep getting more and more people. What is it? How mentally unstable are we?
It's kind of broken down into two areas. And so I'm going to start with the first one. Is a major force that attracts people to the supernatural is the search for meaning in a complicated world.
That is for damn sure.
So this is the funny part. This is why I asked him, like, did you read really through this? And you said you saw it and liked it, but this part, he teaches a course called Weird Stuff.
What?
How to think about the supernatural, paranormal, and the mysterious.
What? How do I take this course?
It's in Arizona. I think you can take it online.
What?
Possibly, yeah. There's a certain degree of chaos and randomness to the lives we live, and people want structure, explanations for human existence, and paranormal or supernatural phenomena can help provide that meaning, right? And it looks at what happens after death, but also some of it is coordinated with we have moved away from organized religion as a society, right? Not as many people are
that's
going to church,
Yep.
especially if you're looking at people under the age of 35, right? Less and less families now that people that are in their 30s and 40s who are having kids, they aren't bringing their kids to church as much or as high of a rate. So,
wow, the boomers are going to hate to hear that.
Huh?
The boomers are going to hate to hear that.
And that's what some of it seems to be, is
that's probably true.
Search for explanation is the world of the search for meaning goes beyond questions about death. Belief in the paranormal can also provide people with a sense of belonging in a world where we may seem insignificant. The world of science makes us feel smaller and smaller as we realize how big the universe and cosmos is. Like we're learning so much more about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is where people are getting some answers to those questions. Sorry.
Yeah. What I forgot, where did this come from? Where did this article?
University of Arizona.
Okay. Oh, it is on the University of Arizona.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
It comes from what I'd consider a reputable source. So
I like it.
it says it's fun and fascinating to learn about a variety of ranging beliefs from astrology to Bigfoot.
Yep.
He says students in his class leave with a strengthened critical thinking skills and deeper appreciation for
Yeah.
the mysterious.
Yep.
Right. Then on the other side, besides, so that's kind of like the philosophical side,
Yep.
right? But then you got to think about what's so fun about it. Like,
Right.
why do we enjoy it? And like a lot of things, it comes down to those wonderful endorphins that we love to chase in certain ways.
Woohoo! Give me that serotonin,
Yep.
or what are you endorphins?
And it's probably
Serotonin,
dopamine in this one.
dopamine. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Dopamine.
And this is why we love ghost stories, horror movies, that sort of thing, because it gives us two wonderful things. It gives us that fight or flight endorphin that we experience as humans
Yep.
without actually being in danger. There is a subconscious
Totally.
part of us that knows when we're sitting at home watching a scary movie, even though we're incredibly scared and going to bed at night, we may, especially when we're younger, may think and be scared, a little more fearful of falling asleep. There's an inherent part of us that knows for the most part we're actually safe
Totally.
for most people.
Totally.
So that juxtaposition between the two of having a fearful moment, but also knowing we're safe at the same time is like a really great endorphin rush to get between
Yep.
the two.
Yep.
Gothic stories combine terror and romance and often feature storylines of characters between ancient belief and modern ideas. This is the part I also found very interesting, is it's true. When you look at how a lot of these stories are told, like look at the more advanced types, as you look at, say, the older Bram Stoker's Dracula, right?
Yep.
And what it was Dracula living at that time versus Twilight or a vampire living in modern era,
Right.
right? It connects these ancient thoughts with modern day lore or technology, right?
Yeah.
Much like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and of course, Frankenstein is not the name of the monster. Frankenstein is the name of the doctor. So it's Dr. Frankenstein.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
People often think it's
Yes.
right.
Totally.
People often think that Frankenstein is a monster. No, it's Dr. Frankenstein. And in that was kind of the same thing he talks about, where it was the technology of the day. It was written right after the Napoleonic Wars. So there were a lot of people that had just died. Right.
Yep.
And it talks about bringing life back to those that may have died by piecing them together
Oh.
using what they considered extremely modern science at the time.
Huh.
Right. But it had all these ancient fears of monsters tied into it.
Interesting.
So both of those things, where from a fear sense, we get to be safe, yet feel scared, the fight or
Totally.
flight endorphins. But also, you get this really unique and, again, according to your beliefs on Dracula, this fiction way of combining facts from the past with what's going on in the future, but you have this supernatural being connecting the two together.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. That's why we seem to enjoy this so much, because there's so many elements that can go on all at the same time.
So true. That's such a great article. Who sent it to you?
You did.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I do think it's so fascinating because it is, and it always reminds me too, again, this Happiness Lab podcast that we listen to, that talks about like the search for awe and how like a way to get happiness is to find like things that make you go, oh wow. And that's kind of like what this stuff does. Like, whoa. And it does, like, I love history combining with like the spooky kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's like a fun way of learning some history. So it is interesting because there are so many people that do love it and seek, spooky stuff, that it's like, what is it? Because some people, then there are others that hate scary movies. Like Jill, one of my best friends,
Jilly Bean doesn't like scary movies.
She hates it.
Does not like them at all.
Scary stuff. She wouldn't even watch scary commercials. Like if a scary commercial came on for a movie,
Scary
she couldn't even watch.
Oh, like a scary movie commercial.
Yeah. A trailer for a movie. That's what I meant.
Like
she
if she
watch
saw a trailer for like The Ring, which we mentioned the other day, she would not watch it.
Freak out. So it's just interesting. Very, it's just, again, like whatever like creams your Twinkie.
And I think that there's so many more examples of the last part we talked about, where using this supernatural or unworldly idea to connect things together.
Totally.
Like even superhero movies do the same thing. right?
Right.
It connects modern society with some kind of ancient fear through the lens of like this superhero that can kind of save everything in modern society. Like
Yeah.
even the
Yep.
oldest Superman movies that I grew up with, like
Yep.
all those exist, right?
Totally.
Star Wars, like all of them follow that same kind of storytelling pattern,
Yeah.
right?
Totally. Totally. No, I love it. That was a fun little science corner to kind of, loop everything.
Tie the loop,
Tie the loop. That's what I was
close the
going for.
loop.
Close the loop. But just interesting discussions. What do you guys think? Let us know. Comment below. There's a way too. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Especially on Spotify, you can make comments now. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but you guys can comment, make public comments, and I can see them and like respond to you. And of course, you can
comment some stuff.
comment on YouTube as well. Let me know what you guys think. Do you believe in vampires? Again, any vampire lore that you have, let us know. Because we're gonna get into some more lore from all y'alls out there. Of course, we have some delicious spooky things going on in my voicemail box, in my box. But
boy.
it is wait on.
I was gonna hit it, and I'm glad you did. I was looking for that one. That's the one I'm always trying to hit.
Yeah,
like I'm glad we found
got
that
the
one.
buttons down. I think we've been working on the buttons. But it is that time. Secret. That's right. It's time for secrets, where you guys send us in your weird secrets, your weird, embarrassing stories. We've gotten some great situationship stories recently. We've gotten, of course, a lot of spooky stories, your own spooky stories, weird stuff your kids have said. All anything weird, we love it. We'll take it. We love a good cult story. We love a good nudist colony story. Send it in. We love a good poop story, a classic. Never, a tale as old as time. If you want to call us in, leave us a weird secret, you can call in too.
SpeakPipe.
That's speakpipe.com/weird and proud pod. Again, speakpipe.com/weird and proud pod. It'll be in the description and it'll be in my bio as a link as Weird and Proud Pod on Instagram. Make sure you're following us. Content's popping off over there.
Put it right in her box.
Put it in my box. I won't even go there. I won't even start. Because once I start, I can't stop. All right, James, do you want to start with a spooky story?
Prepared.
Here we go.
Hi, Sam and James. I have a spooky story for you. Excuse me. I used to live in Harlem, and it was this creepy building, and it was right between a funeral home and a building that was like 666, whatever the street. So like creepy vibes already. So I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and I saw a man standing over me with these like wild eyes, and the worst part was like he was like grinning at me, this like really creepy crooked grin. I thought I was seeing things, and then he didn't go away. So I thought it was like a demon or something. And I was like, get out of my house in the name of Jesus. And he didn't go anywhere. And that's when I realized, okay, this is like a real man that's in my house that's going to murder me. So I ran out of my bedroom. And at the last second, I looked back and turned on the light, and there was nobody there. So I was too terrified to go back to bed because I thought if I woke up in the morning, I would convince myself like that never happened. You were just seeing things. But I was so sure I saw something, whatever it was. I don't know if it was going to be sleep paralysis, if I'm like moving and like awake. I don't know. I don't not believe in ghosts. Yeah. What do you guys think? Sam, James, love the podcast. Bye.
Well, first of all, this is, of course, my worst nightmare. Someone standing over your bed. But, like, what could you, like, really make out the details? I think that always, like, is how you can, like, see if it was either, like, a sleep paralysis or, like, a dream versus, like, actually seeing something is, like, just, like, how much detail you can give. Because that was, like, how I used to always, like, try and break up, when I would see ghosts too, is it's like, okay, can I like, because normally like if I have a bad dream, I don't know, or a nightmare, by the next day, like later in the day, I cannot fucking remember that dream. Like I'll remember like kind of, but I wouldn't be able to like describe it in detail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Where like something that I know I saw, when I'm awake, I can be like, he was wearing these type of pants, he was positioned like this, he was leaning over, he was making these movements, he looked like he had a facial structure like this. And that was, for me, at least that's kind of my thought and idea. But it also sounds like it's a creepy place anyways, and you're not living there, hopefully. I think you said you're not living there anymore, because who knows, with this creepy grin. That always creeps me out. That's why, that whole horror movie, that series Smile.
Yeah.
Like, that is perfect because there's something creepy about like a grin like
The
that.
Smile is, I like those. I like the first one. I
Yeah,
thought
that
it
was
was
actually
good.
the second one actually just came out. We should see that. But I mean, so that would be my question, is like, can you remember like the exact detail of it? Because that would, but I haven't.
My
really-
questions wouldn't be the detail about the being or the person or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
My questions would be the details about waking up, or
Right.
the details of when you vividly remember seeing this person. What was around them? Were you really in your room seeing this person, or was it
That's
somewhere
right.
else?
Yeah.
Right? Are you certain that like your like our rooms are so imprinted in our brains that we can
Yeah.
get up and move around them when we're half tired, not seeing anything, right?
Yeah.
Like it's part of your subconscious, even if you've only lived there a couple of months, right? It's going, you can still get around. If you're only seeing the person and you don't remember your apartment being around or surrounded, and details about your apartment, or like what time is it? You always say in dreams what time it is.
Yep.
If those details aren't there, I would say that the sleep paralysis is the most likely explanation.
Yeah.
And you did wake up in terror, because I've woke up from sleep. I've had that. I had that when I was younger. And you wake up and you're like scared. You don't know. But then,
Yeah. Have you ever had anyone stand over you in your sleep paralysis?
I had like an apparition, that like something that moved through the room.
What?
Yeah, I talked about this on an earlier podcast.
I know you've talked about the sleep paralysis, but I don't know if you talked about like an apparition.
It was like something was there, right?
Yeah,
but then I woke up
maybe you
and it
did talk.
wasn't. But
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's scary.
Thank knock on wood, knock on literally everything.
You
have
would
not had that.
freak out.
Oh my god! Don't even put that in my head. Don't even do it. But let us know. Let us know. What you think about that? About the detailed part of it, if you would agree or not. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. James, are you ready?
Prepared.
For the next weird secret. Here we go.
Hey, Sam and James. Just a little story about little kids and seeing ghosts. When we had our first house, my son was about 2, maybe 3 at the max. And my husband worked nights, so it was just him and I in the house. And he came screaming one night and said, "The old man's here, the old man's here." I'm like, what the heck? So I go looking through the house, don't see anything. And then come the next day, he had a new friend named Charlie. So this lasted a few months, where he would talk to this old man. He would take him on walks with us. And so I did some digging and some research. And a few owners before us, there was an old man named Charles and his wife that lived in that house. And the old man had actually died in the front of the house. And my mom at that point refused to come back to our house until she had our priest come and bless the house with holy water. But after that, he never came back. Talk to you later.
How weird.
Those are intriguing.
Those kid stories always creep me out, specifically because, again, like I feel like I know.
You were there. You did it. Yeah.
I did that to my mom, and she would tell me, she'd be like, "You used to scare the shit out of me when you were a kid, because I always do this weird shit."
The mom, no, she said her mom didn't want to come visit till the priest blessed.
Yeah.
She seems pretty cool and calm and collective about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, she said, too, is, good now because the priest came blessed and now it hasn't happened since.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if it was still happening, it'd be a different story. But
how did she feel at the time, I wonder?
I'm sure, like,
she said it happened for a few months. Like, she seemed very nonchalant.
Well, that's what's always
which
hard.
is impressive, yeah.
And I feel like, especially with, having kids is with young kids, it's like there are a lot of these invisible friends that you have. You're learning about, concepts of having friends and make believe and play. And it was funny. I will give a shout out. I wasn't going to play it this week, but there was a girl who called in and she was like, I will say my daughter was freaking me out because they don't, she also doesn't know the difference of like tenses of like past tense versus present tense. So she thinks like anything before today was like, she'll say like when I was a little girl, or like,
Yep.
back when I was young. So, cause she hears like other, adults say
People
that.
say that, yeah.
So she was like, with the first couple times she said that, it freaked me out. But now, it's like, I just, she just doesn't know
The difference
yeah. in tenses and what that means to a regular person. If you went up and said, when I was a little girl, I used to.
Yeah, true. So
a lot of times you're like, okay, are you just not knowing exactly what you're saying, or are you really meaning what you're saying? I guess it's probably an age thing too. If if a 2-year-old said, I was the little girl, I saw this, I'd be like, okay, you're 2. But if like your 8-year-old was like, when I was a little girl, I was on the Titanic, you're like, what the fuck?
that would be strange.
Yeah, like I don't know. So, but again, I don't even like know what kids' ages mean, or like, can kids even talk at the age of 2? I have no idea.
They can.
Okay, great. So creepy, but again, at least it's not happening anymore. So I feel like that's, a positive. But again, love the weird kid stories, especially like if they do talk about like a previous life. I feel like it gets creepy when like they say things you're like, how the hell would you know that? Like there was one time some girl had called in and she was like talking about when she like lived in China and used to like, do like specific things. It's like, this kid was like 5 and you're like, how would you know about like Chinese history?
Yeah.
Like that's weird. Versus like saying, like, when I was a little girl, I played with balls. You're like, okay. But if you're like, when I was a little girl, when I was living in China last year, and I was doing, then it's like, okay, then who knows?
What are you saying?
Yeah, it's like, wait, what? Where did you get that from? Okay, so we have I'm gonna mix things up. I'm gonna do this funny story that has been cracking me up, and it'll make parts of you tingle in not great ways. I don't know how of a lead up that was to the story, but here we go.
Hey, Sam and James. So, a couple of months ago, Arby's came out with this new super hot, ghost pepper, flamin' hot, fiery chicken sandwich. And me and my boyfriend were really excited to try it. So, we went through the drive thru, ordered a couple of them, and brought them home. After we ate them, my boyfriend decided to go down on me. And at first, everything was great until a couple seconds later, I started to feel the most intense burn of my life down in my nether regions. So, needless to say, the mood was totally ruined because I had to run to the shower and start a cold bath because I was literally on fire down there. And it probably would have happened to my boyfriend if I went down on him first. But I was the lucky one that day that he went down on me first. Anyways, just a cautionary tale and a warning. If you guys ever eat anything crazy spicy, don't go down on someone because they are going to feel it 10 times worse down south than in your mouth. Okay, guys. Bye.
So this is a great PSA.
sounds horrible.
I had a friend in college. This like so reminded me because I feel like this has either happened to you or it's happened to a close friend because it's just bound to happen with spicy things. And one of my friends actually was using Icy Hot.
Oh.
And yeah, and I think it was also like a really powerful like type of Icy Hot.
Yeah, it wasn't like over the counter.
Right. And she like had just rubbed it like on her back. and somehow, was still on her hands, and she was like, touching her mans. And they had to go. At the time, they went to like the nurses friggin' station or whatever it
Oh,
was on
damn.
campus, but they were about to call 911. Like, he was like, I thought my dick was gonna freeze off. It's like
Oh.
the most painful thing of his
Was
entire life.
numb. Yeah, you wouldn't know what's going on. Well, there's so many nerve endings down there. That's the purpose.
It's so sensitive. It's the same thing. I had just heard this story too of a girl was telling this story on TikTok. Jalapeno margaritas. Like, they had, all of her friends had come over. They had jalapeno margaritas. She's like, I love spicy stuff. And I was like basically eating jalapenos, and went to go hook up with, whoever. And again, was like, we literally had to go to urgent care, because we could
my
not find
God.
out like how to stop the burning. Like, even like, because a lot of that too, especially like the icy hot, it's like that shit does not come off
No.
easily. You can't just like wipe that off or like put water on that.
No,
Maybe a little bit, but
you got to use fat. You got to use
like another
milk
oil,
or,
like
yeah,
a petroleum jelly type of thing or
yeah.
something, to like get that shit off. But cautionary tale is old. Another tale as old as time. That's, thank God, like, we're not really like huge spicy people. Like, I've never like seen like the ghost, but like a really spicy sandwich, but like, ooh, I can't wait to try that. Like a spicy sandwich.
I mean, I like spice, but I don't like ruining flavor spicy.
Right. That I like. Well, I mean, and I don't, I don't know what the ghost pepper sandwich is, but like
Buffalo
some people love
wings are
that.
about as crazy as we go.
Yeah. Or like, on Thai food, if I put like medium, like, I'm crazy.
Yeah. Ready to party.
Yeah, shit's getting wild. But that was such a funny story. I wanted to like end like kind of like on a goofy, silly, little secret. And that's informative. Like, I feel like that's, like a good remember it, if you're going out, having a spicy drink, having spicy food, just make sure you wash your hands, soap and water, make sure you clean your mouth, like do some mouthwash or something. Or like use another fat. Like, I think, like milk that'd probably be your best guess. But maybe just like wait a hot sec. Literally, wait a hot sec before you take it upstairs, if you know what I mean. But if you have any weird stories, any weird situationship stories, again, we've gotten some great one of those. We've gotten some good spooky ones, which we're gonna of course like be highlighting more of the spooky ones for this month. But we'll kind of go back to all, a plethora of weird stuff. But if you have any weird stories, weird secrets, you can call in too.
SpeakPipe.
That's speakpipe.com/weird-and-proud-pod. Speakpipe.com/weird-and-proud-pod. Also be in the description. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Weird and Proud Pod. You always see updates. You'll see like me randomly popping on there. You'll get to see, trying to post more clips. It's all about the clips, all about the reels. Also, make sure if you're listening to this on Spotify, leave a comment. Make sure you're subscribed too, by the way. That really helps out. And then you'll always know when there's a new episode. Same thing, of course, with, podcasts, Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, if you see us, hi. You can also watch this as a video on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed there as well. Give this video a thumbs up. Comment below. What were your thoughts? Give it to us. Give it to us raw. And leave us a voicemail. Enjoy another Gagina week of spooky month. And stay safe out there. Stay safe. Look out for the spooky vibes. The veil is thinning. So just be careful, okay?
But
you never
don't
know
worry.
what spooky stuff will come around. What?
Vampires aren't real.
I don't know. If you guys want to convince me otherwise, please do. But, because I'm always open-minded. But we love you guys so much. Anything else, James, you want to tell other people?
Love you, weirdlings.
We love you, weirdlings, so much. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye.